Hey guys, today's video we are talking about Tropical Storm Cindy. Tropical Storm Brett has fully dissipated now, and Cindy is also on its weakening and dissipating trend. It is now currently at 45 miles per hour and 1,009 millibars, continuing to the north and west at 17 miles per hour. So it is moving at a pretty quick pace, and it does seem that it will dissipate by tomorrow morning, by 8 a.m. Monday. Maybe a little before, maybe a little after, but we shall see. But it does look like it will have dissipated by the time we get to tomorrow. So let us look at what Cindy looks like currently. And Cindy, you can see, is being sheared very, very badly. There's the central low-level center, the center of the storm. You can see all the convection is way displaced to the east of the center. And this will continue to be the case as it continues to weaken and begin to dissipate and fully dissipate by the time we get into tomorrow. So really, really looking at a pretty weak system. But you can see the general model track guidance, it continues it to the north and west, and then brings it then directly north or so, going near Bermuda, either to the east or west, and then being brought up into the Canadian Maritimes and a bit to the east of New England. And that does come with some very interesting stuff. This is the model intensity guidance, the 12Z initiation of it from this morning, and you can see it has the storm weakening, likely below tropical depression status, maybe dissipate for a bit, but some of them have it strengthening back to tropical storm status later on in the week, which is very, very interesting. We shall keep an eye on it, see if it maybe tries to regenerate for a short period before really dying off. But for now, it does look like the system will fully dissipate, at least for now, possibly by tomorrow. So that is very, very interesting to take note of. Now let's see if the general models, let's see if they, after Cindy, generate anything else that could be tropical that we could watch heading into the rest of this weekend, into the future, and into the beginning of July. We're actually only a few days away, just like a few days away from the beginning of July. July starts this weekend. So there you can see Cindy moving. This is Cindy over here, and Cindy's continuing the northwest and then north, really dissipating, but then maybe trying to regenerate a little bit, but GFS really shows it not really trying to regenerate too much and being brought up directly north into the Canadian Maritimes. And you can see beyond that, there may be something of possible tropical characteristics into the very western Caribbean, into the Gulf, but as we know already, that area is littered with a lot of very, very strong wind shear that tears up tropical cyclones in the Atlantic during El Niños, and I don't know if that'll really happen. But you can see then as well down at the bottom of your screen here, this little system here, we move it forward. GFS starts to try and really form it into some kind of quick tropical system in the very, very southern main development region in the central tropical Atlantic, going through the very southern Leeward Islands and into the very northern bits of South America before it hits northern South America and starts to dissipate and everything. And then beyond that, it doesn't look like there's much of anything else out in the open North Atlantic, really. There's maybe this kind of system over here, but that seems generally quite weak as well. But then at the very end of, or not even at the end of the run, as we get towards the very end of the run, here we go. You can really see there's not much else going on there. The Bermuda High in the open North Atlantic takes full control, but there's nothing really that it's directing as in tropical characteristics or any type of tropical system really directing it to the west or north or anything. So it looks like the Atlantic may likely, to be honest, go into a quiet period for a bit heading into July, and at least the beginnings of July. I don't know, we shall see if when the Atlantic will wake up yet again. Now, the Eastern Pacific, though, let's kind of zone in on the Eastern Pacific. Mention that a little bit. Let's see, where is it? Here we go, Eastern Pacific. This is the GFS model, by the way, the American model that I'm using for the most part. Now, you can see the GFS model has all of this moisture out in the Eastern Pacific off the Central America coast, the Mexico coast. And the National Hurricane Center is actually monitoring two areas of disturbed weather for possible tropical cyclogenesis. You can see there's this one area and then this area over here, the second area behind it. And the GFS really does strengthen the first system for a short period of time, a very quick spin-up type of lasting system. But then the second system that forms behind it seems to last a lot longer and possibly get a good bit stronger, and goes up towards the Baja California Peninsula, and then it reaches much colder waters and starts to weaken and dissipate as it approaches and gets much closer to Baja California, bringing enhanced rainfall to Mexico and Baja California. But that is all the way towards the end of this week, towards the end of this work week, towards the weekend. So the Eastern Pacific may try and spin up something to start its hurricane season this year, but it's very interesting, though, because when you're in an El Nino type of pattern for hurricane seasons, it's really the Eastern Pacific that takes charge in our area around the U.S. The Atlantic becomes a lot quieter because El Niños cause a lot more stronger wind shear, particularly in the Atlantic, which helps to tear tropical systems apart and doesn't let them form or strengthen or anything. But the Eastern Pacific, it's a lot calmer with wind shear and dry air, and so that really, in those conditions, really allows the Eastern Pacific to perk up in activity and become a lot more active than we usually see it. Because as we know, in the past many years, 6-7 years lately, we've seen the Atlantic be really just the taker of all this active activity. From 2016 through last year, or really even 2021, last year ended up being more of kind of an average season, as we saw it kind of on a decline towards that La Nina dissipating, getting more into a neutral. Now we're into an El Nino, where we're likely going to see this year's Atlantic hurricane season be much quieter, possibly more towards average, maybe slightly below average in activity. And with El Nino in place, we really would expect the Eastern Pacific to become a lot more active than in a neutral or La Nina type of conditions. So we shall see if, as we get towards the middle and end of this week, we see if that, especially that second system that the National Hurricane Center is monitoring in the Eastern Pacific, this system right here, actually does really likely form. And even this system, we'll see if this system does form. We shall see. It really all depends. We can actually just really quick show you the percent chances over the next 2 to 7 days that the National Hurricane Center is monitoring these systems for. So this is the first system, has a low 20 to, let's see, can I get there? We go. Low 20% chance over the next 2 days of development and a high 80% chance of development over the next 7 days. However, these percent chances, especially over the next 7 days, have gone down from a 90% chance to an 80% chance over the last day or so. But the second system behind is at a 0% chance of development over the next 2 days, but a medium 50% chance of development over the next week. And it says an area of low pressure is forecast to form early next week, several hundred miles south of El Salvador, Guatemala, and southern Mexico. Some gradual development of this system is possible thereafter, and a tropical depression could form during the middle to latter part of this week, while it moves slowly west-northwestward, remaining offshore of the southern and southwestern coast of Mexico. And so we shall see what the system does. It likely will stay offshore of Central America and Mexico, not be any literal direct impacts to them, but may cause some likely much more cloud cover and possibly some a higher chance of some heavier rains in that area, but generally stay offshore, and the worst conditions stay offshore with the system. But if this system does form, especially, I will definitely track it with you guys, give you guys updates on it. Obviously, I will be much more active with tracking the Atlantic activity for you guys in the Eastern Pacific, because the Atlantic hurricane season impacts us a lot more than the Eastern Pacific does. And so that will be always be much more of a focus for me than monitoring the Eastern Pacific's activity for hurricane season. But in any case, if this system still does develop and we see the Atlantic go into a much quieter period, I will monitor this system for you guys as well as this first system. If this first system actually does develop, we shall see. But, and it does say a tropical depression is likely to form during the middle part of this week as the system moves generally west-northwestward parallel to the southwestern coast of Mexico. So we'll see if this first system does develop, although it does seem, according to, at least to the GFS model, that it will form and be a very quick forming system, not lasting too long, unlike this second system right behind it. So that'll be very, very interesting to watch. Now, as we round out this video, we are looking at the 2023 Atlantic hurricane season Wikipedia page. Generally for the season, we have seen 4 total systems form, 4 total storms form, 3 storms be named, with 1 being unnamed, that unnamed subtropical storm yet again that we had back in mid-January. The total ACE value for the season is now at 9.1 units. So actually, at this point in the season, it's very interesting because we don't really see the total ACE amount for the season, which stands for accumulated cyclone energy, which takes in how much energy a tropical system in the Atlantic creates once it reaches tropical storm status or higher. Tropical depressions are not counted within that. That's why once it gets to a subtropical or tropical storm status, it's named and strengthens. And it depends on how, it really depends as well on how long each system forms. The longer lasting a tropical system occurs for, the more ACE it produces. So let's think back to 2017. Storms like Irma, Maria, they were very long-lasting, very strong systems. So they create a lot of ACE, a lot of energy, accumulated cyclone energy. So at this point, having 9.1 units of ACE with all of the systems we've had so far, especially just the systems we've had in June, especially Brett and Cindy occurring simultaneously at a certain point, that really helped to jack up the amount of ACE that we wouldn't typically see this much at this point towards the end of June. But because of these 2 systems occurring for just how long they did, especially at the same time at a certain point, that really helped to jack up the ACE amount for this point in the season than we usually would see at this point. So we're at 9.1 units right now. Generally, I think we would see more towards, I think, 5 or 6 units. Correct me if I'm wrong in the comments. I'm not entirely sure, so please correct me if I'm wrong in the comments if you guys know. So that is something definitely I would love to know and be very certain on. So if you guys do know exactly what the typical ACE amount we should be at this point in the season, please comment below, because I would love to actually specifically know. But I do know that at 9.1 units at this point in the season, at the end of June, we're not even into July or anywhere near the peak of the season. That is a bit somewhat above the amount of ACE that we should see at this point in the season. So it's very, very interesting to see that the Atlantic is kind of active at the very beginning point of this hurricane season, with the El Nino conditions going on and the very enhanced shear that we're seeing in the Caribbean and everything at this point. So, of course, we'll see what the Atlantic does throughout the rest of the season, how much more active the season gets. Generally, the season does look, honestly, more towards an average season to slightly below average. There are some forecasts here from certain agencies that say it could be more above average to well above average, especially if we're looking at the updated University of Arizona forecast for 25 named storms, 12 hurricanes, and 6 major hurricanes. That does not at all seem likely to occur with the stuff that's going to happen. But it does look likely that the season will end up being more average to slightly below average, something somewhat maybe more in line to last year's total activity, probably, than, let's say, especially 2020, definitely nowhere near 2020. Even 2021, I don't think it will get really generally close to that. But I think 2022's Atlantic hurricane season total activity in the end last year, I think this season will line up somewhat much closer to that, but maybe be still a little bit less active than even last year. So we shall see. But that is it for today's video, guys. I really hope you enjoyed it, found it informative, helpful, interesting. If you did, like the video down below, comment down below what you guys think the rest of the season may bring. But after Cindy really dissipates, likely tomorrow, what do you think? Do you think how long do you think the Atlantic will be quiet for? When do you think it might wake up again? What do you guys think the peak of the season may bring? Do you think we could see our first hurricane? When do you guys think we could see our first hurricanes or major hurricanes even? Let's speculate about that down below in the comments. Have a nice lively discussion down there. And subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. If you like this type of content, want more like it, please consider subscribing for future content like this. And I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye.